I found out on a random Tuesday morning, the kind of ordinary morning that doesn't warn you it's about to ruin your life. I was sitting at my desk, half focused on emails, half thinking about what to cook for dinner. My phone buzzed once on the table beside me. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Annoyed, I picked it up. Congratulations on your new mortgage approval, $860,000. I blinked. Mortgage approval? I almost laughed. I hadn't applied for any mortgage. I was renting a modest one-bedroom apartment. I had been carefully saving for years, building my credit, saying no to vacations, no to impulse shopping, no to anything that could threaten my financial stability. There had to be a mistake. I opened my banking app. My fingers felt strangely cold as I typed in my password. The loading circle spun. Then it appeared. A brand new mortgage account. Loan amount, $860,000. Status, active. The property address listed was mine. It was in my hometown. My chest tightened. I refreshed the page. Maybe it was a glitch. It wasn't. I called the bank immediately. After navigating through automated menus and answering security questions I could recite in my sleep, I was finally transferred to a representative. "Yes, Ms. Carter," she said politely. "Your mortgage loan was finalized 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks. I felt the room tilt slightly. "I never applied for a mortgage," I said slowly. "I don't own a house." There was a pause on the line. Keyboard clicking. "Well," she continued, her voice now more cautious, "the documents show your signed approval and identification verification."
Signed.
My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Can you tell me the property address?" I asked. She read it out loud. It was a new development neighborhood. In my hometown, where my parents lived, where my sister had been looking at houses for months. Suddenly, pieces began sliding into place in a way that made me feel sick. I remember my mom casually asking for a copy of my ID months ago for a family file. I remember my dad asking about my credit score at dinner like it was small talk. I remember my sister joking once, "Must be nice to have perfect credit." My breathing became shallow. Who is listed as the resident? I forced myself to ask. There was another pause. Emily Carter. My sister. The world didn't explode. There was no dramatic music, no lightning strike. Just silence. A heavy, suffocating silence as I stared at the screen showing a debt that could destroy everything I had worked for. $860,000. In my name. And I already knew, deep down, this wasn't a bank error. This was family. And somehow that made it worse. The drive back to my hometown felt longer than it ever had before. 3 hours on the highway. 3 hours of replaying memories I had once ignored. 3 hours of convincing myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe it was identity theft. Maybe someone hacked my information. Maybe, just maybe, my family wasn't involved. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Emily had always been the golden child. If she wanted something, she got it. If she made a mistake, someone else cleaned it up. Usually me. Growing up, I was the responsible one. Straight A's.
Part-time job at 16.
Scholarships. No drama. No rebellion. Emily? She was charm and chaos wrapped in a perfect smile. She dropped out of college twice. Maxed out credit cards. Jumped from job to job. But somehow, she was still finding herself, while I was too serious. When I pulled into my parents' driveway that night, I noticed something immediately. A brand new SUV parked outside. Emily's. So she could afford that but needed my name for a house? The front door opened before I even knocked. My mom stood there like she'd been waiting. "Oh, sweetheart," she said softly.
Too softly.
That tone wasn't comfort. It was preparation. I stepped inside. My dad was sitting in the living room, arms crossed. Emily leaned casually against the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone like nothing in the world was wrong. I didn't sit down. "I just got approved for an $860,000 mortgage," I said. Silence. Not confusion. Not shock. Silence. My mom sighed. "It's not what you think." That sentence. The most dangerous sentence in the world. "Then explain it to me," I said. Emily finally looked up, It's just temporary, she said with a shrug. The bank wouldn't approve me on my own. You have amazing credit. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. I felt something crack inside my chest. You used my name, I whispered. You forged my signature. My dad stood up then, his voice firm. Lower your tone.
My tone?
You're overreacting, he continued. Emily will make the payments. It's just paperwork. Just paperwork. $860,000 of paperwork. You committed fraud, I said, my voice shaking now. Not from fear, but from disbelief. My mother stepped closer to me, tears forming instantly, like she'd practiced it. We did this for family, she said. You're successful. You're stable. Emily needed help. There it was. The justification. I was stable, so I could absorb the risk. Emily was unstable, so she deserved protection. And somehow, that equation made sense to them. I looked at my sister. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed. Relax, she said. I'll pay it. Why are you acting like I stole something? Because you did. But what hurt the most wasn't the loan. It wasn't even the forgery. It was the realization that in their eyes, my future was collateral. And they expected me to smile while they mortgaged it. I stood there staring at them, waiting for anyone to admit this was wrong. No one did. Instead, my mother reached for my hand like I was being unreasonable. Sweetheart, she said gently, it's just temporary. Emily will refinance in a year. This is only until she gets on her feet. On her feet? She was standing in a kitchen that technically belonged to me. With my identity? I asked quietly. My father exhaled sharply. Don't make this dramatic. That word again. Dramatic. As if I had spilled juice on the carpet instead of discovering I was nearly $1 million in debt. I turned to Emily. Did you sign my name? She hesitated, just for a second. Then she shrugged. Dad handled most of it. The room went still. I looked at my father. He didn't deny it. The bank needed paperwork, he said flatly. It's done now. It's done now. Like that erased everything. You forged federal loan documents, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Do you understand that's criminal? My mother's tears came faster. Why are you attacking us? She cried. We did this because we trust you. Because we're family. Trust? They had trusted me enough to risk prison with my name. Emily rolled her eyes. You act like I'm not going to pay it, are you? I asked. Yes, she snapped. Obviously. With what income? Silence. That silence said more than anything else. She had just started a new job 2 weeks ago. Before that, she had been freelancing, which usually meant unemployed. Emily has potential. My father cut in. She just needed an opportunity. And I'm the opportunity? I shot back. The air shifted. My father's expression hardened. You've always been selfish about money. Selfish. The word hit me harder than the loan amount. I worked 2 jobs in college, so my parents wouldn't struggle with tuition. I co-signed Emily's first car loan when she begged me. I paid off her credit card once because my mother swore it was the last time. Selfish? I never agreed to this, I said. We knew you'd say no, my mother whispered. There it was. The truth. They didn't ask because my answer mattered. They didn't ask because they didn't need my permission. They had already decided my role in this story. The responsible one. The safety net. The sacrifice. I want my name off that loan, I said firmly. My father's voice dropped, low, controlled. If you go to the bank, you'll destroy your sister's life. I met his eyes. You already put mine at risk. Emily scoffed. God, you're so dramatic. It's just a house.
No.
It wasn't just a house. It was my credit, my future, my ability to buy my own home one day, my security. And they had gambled it without blinking. As I walked toward the door, my mother called after me. Don't you dare embarrass this family. I paused. For the first time in my life, I realized something chilling. They weren't afraid of what they had done. They were afraid I might finally refuse to clean up their mess. And for the first time, I was seriously considering it. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the number. $860,000. It floated behind my eyelids like a curse. By morning, I had made a decision. I was going to the bank. I was going to report the fraud. Family or not. But before I could even leave my apartment, my phone started ringing.
Mom.
I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Then Emily. Then Mom again. 22 missed calls in less than an hour. I finally answered. What? I said flatly. My father's voice came through first.
Calm.
Controlled. Don't do anything stupid. Stupid. You committed fraud in my name, I replied. I'm fixing it. You'll ruin your sister, my mother cut in, her voice shaking dramatically. Do you want her homeless? She should have thought of that before signing my name. There was a pause. Then my father spoke again, slower this time. If you report this, the bank will investigate everything. They'll look at your finances too. I frowned. What does that mean? It means, he said carefully, things can get messy.
Audits.
Legal fees. Stress. Are you prepared for that? There it was. Not an apology. A warning. You're threatening me? I asked. I'm protecting this family, he replied. Family. The word felt dirty now. Emily grabbed the phone. I could hear the shift in breathing.
You're being selfish, she snapped.
I already moved in. I painted the walls. I signed contracts. You can't just pull the rug out from under me. You pulled it out from under me first. It's temporary, she yelled. Why can't you ever just support me? Support her. Like I had when I paid her car loan. Like I had when I covered her rent once. Like I had when I stayed silent every time she borrowed money that was never returned. This wasn't support. This was theft. I'm going to the bank, I said firmly. My mother's crying intensified instantly. You'll destroy us, she sobbed. People will find out. What will our relatives say? That was it. Not jail. Not legality. Reputation. They were terrified of embarrassment, not consequences. My father's voice dropped into something colder than I'd ever heard before. If you do this, he said quietly, don't expect to be part of this family anymore. The words hit me like ice water. Disowned. For refusing to take on nearly $1 million of fraudulent debt. I should have felt devastated. Instead, I felt something else. Clarity. Because in that moment, I understood something painful. I had never really been valued. I had been useful. There's a difference. Then I guess, I said slowly, I'll see how strong this family really is without me carrying it. Silence on the other end. No more tears. No more yelling. Just stunned quiet. I hung up first. And for the first time since that email notification, I wasn't shaking. I was angry. And anger, unlike fear, can build something powerful. I grabbed my keys. If they thought guilt would keep me quiet, they were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. For 3 weeks after the confrontation, everything went quiet. Too quiet. No more phone calls. No more emotional voicemails. No more threats. It was the kind of silence that feels staged, like the calm before something breaks. I contacted the bank the very next day after that phone call. I reported the fraud, requested a formal investigation, and submitted a written statement declaring I had never signed those documents. They told me investigations take time. Weeks, sometimes months. In the meantime, the loan remained active. Under my name. Then, the first mortgage payment came due. I watched my account obsessively that week, half expecting Emily to prove me wrong. Half hoping she'd actually make the payment and fix this before it spiraled further. The due date passed. Nothing. 3 days later, I received another notification. Mortgage payment. Overdue. My stomach dropped. I refreshed my credit monitoring app. My score had already dropped 42 points.
Just like that.
Years of discipline, chipped away in a single missed payment. I called Emily immediately. She answered on the third ring, sounding irritated. What? She said. The payment bounced. It's fine, she replied casually. I'm waiting on my paycheck. It's already late. God, you're obsessed, she snapped. It's just a few days. A few days? Late payments don't wait politely. They report. They punish. They stain. You promised you'd pay, I said. I will, she shot back. Why are you acting like I'm some criminal? Because you are. But I didn't say it. Instead, I asked the question that had been building in my chest for weeks. Did you ever plan to tell me? Silence. Then she sighed. Mom said you'd overreact. Overreact. The word burned now. So the plan was just to hope I wouldn't notice an $860,000 loan? It wasn't supposed to blow up like this, she muttered. There was again not regret for what they did. Regret that I found out. 2 days later, the late fee was added. My credit dropped again. This time, 87 points total from where I started. 87. That number felt personal. I had spent years building that score. Saying no to myself. Delaying vacations. Driving an old car long after I could afford better.
And now?
Because my sister wanted granite countertops and a 2-car garage, my financial stability was bleeding. That night, my mother called. Why are you stressing her? She demanded. She's trying. She missed the payment. She'll fix it. With what money? She'll figure it out. That was the problem. Emily always figured it out because someone else absorbed the damage. Usually me. But something shifted inside me as I stared at the notification on my phone. Late payment reported. For the first time, I stopped feeling shocked. Stopped feeling hurt. Stopped feeling confused. What I felt instead was cold. Calculated. Because if they thought I was going to sit quietly while my credit burned, they didn't know me at all. And that was the moment I stopped trying to save my sister and started preparing to save myself. Anger is loud at first. Then, if you let it settle, it becomes quiet.
Precise.
That's where I was now. No more emotional phone calls. No more arguing with my parents. No more trying to get Emily to understand. I stopped talking. And I started documenting. Every missed call. Every late notice. Every credit alert. Every text message where Emily promised to handle it. Then I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. Sitting in that office felt surreal. Clean white walls. Diplomas framed neatly behind his desk. The smell of coffee and printer paper. Normal. Like I wasn't about to explain how my own family had put me nearly $1 million in debt. When I finished telling him everything, he didn't look shocked. He looked focused. Did you sign any documents? He asked.
No.
Did you give written permission?
No.
Did you provide identification for this transaction? My stomach tightened. My mom asked for a copy of my driver's license months ago. I admitted. He nodded slowly. We'll request full loan documentation immediately. 2 weeks later, the bank sent copies. I opened the email alone in my apartment. And there it was. My name. Signed in ink. Over and over again. Initialed on every page. Except, it wasn't my handwriting. It was close. Painfully close. Someone had practiced it. The loops in my L were slightly tighter. The tail of my Y was longer than I usually wrote it. The pressure marks were heavier. But it wasn't mine. I felt something inside me go still. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't temporary help. This was deliberate. Calculated.
Forgery.
I flipped through more documents. Income verification forms listing a salary I never reported. Employment confirmation from a company I had never worked for. Even a fake utility bill with my name tied to an address I had never lived at. It was layered. Detailed.
Planned.
My father didn't handle paperwork. He built a lie. I drove back to my hometown that evening without telling anyone. The new house stood tall at the end of a quiet suburban street. Fresh paint. Wide windows. A sold sign still leaning near the mailbox. Emily's SUV was in the driveway. I didn't knock. Instead, I walked around the side of the property. There was a small security camera mounted above the garage. The loan documents had mentioned identity verification at closing. That meant there was likely footage. Someone had sat at a table pretending to be me. Smiling. Signing. Becoming me. I called the lawyer the next morning. Can we request the closing footage? I asked. We can subpoena it, he replied. Subpoena. The word felt heavy. Official.
Real.
This wasn't a family argument anymore. This was a legal battlefield. And for the first time since that Tuesday morning notification, I wasn't reacting. I was building a case. Because they thought I'd fold under guilt. They thought I'd stay quiet to protect the family. But they forgot one thing. If they were willing to fake my signature, I was willing to expose theirs. The email from my lawyer arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Subject line: closing video received. My heart started pounding before I even clicked it. I waited until I got home. I didn't want to watch it in my car. I didn't want witnesses to the expression that might cross my face. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, sat down, pressed play. The footage was from a small office room. Neutral walls, a wooden table, a smiling loan officer arranging paperwork. The timestamp showed a date 3 weeks before I received the mortgage notification. Then the door opened. Emily walked in first, confident, smiling, wearing a cream blazer I'd seen her post about online. Behind her, my father.
Calm. Composed.
And then, a third woman entered the room. I leaned closer to the screen. She had similar hair to mine. Same general height. Dark sunglasses covering half her face. But it wasn't me. Not even close. She laughed at something Emily said as she sat down. The loan officer slid documents across the table. And then I watched it happen. The woman picked up the pen. Sign my name. Slowly.
Carefully.
Page after page. Initial after initial. My father watched without hesitation. Emily checked her phone between signatures. No one looked nervous. No one looked guilty. They looked comfortable. Like this was normal. Like stealing my identity was just another family arrangement. Halfway through the video, the loan officer asked for ID verification. The woman handed over a driver's license. The camera zoom wasn't clear enough to see details, but I knew one thing for certain. That was a fake. Or worse, a duplicate of mine. I paused the video. My hands weren't shaking this time. They were steady. Steady. They didn't just risk my credit. They orchestrated fraud with witnesses. With paperwork. With a hired stranger pretending to be me. I pressed play again. At the end of the signing, Emily hugged the woman. Actually hugged her. My father shook her hand. Money exchanged hands discreetly. Then they all walked out together, celebrating. I closed my laptop. And something inside me, something that had still been hoping for misunderstanding, finally died. This wasn't desperation. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned, which meant one thing. They never intended to remove me from that loan. They intended for me to carry it forever. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Mom. Family dinner Sunday. Let's stop all this tension. I stared at the message for a long time. Stop the tension. As if I had created it. As if I was the problem. I opened a new email instead. Addressed to the bank's fraud department. Attached. The forged signature comparison. The employment falsification documents. And now the closing footage. Subject line: formal fraud escalation. Immediate action required. Then, I forwarded the same evidence to my lawyer with one sentence. Let's proceed. Because if they were bold enough to fake my identity on camera, I was bold enough to make sure that camera became evidence. And this time, I wasn't asking for my name back. I was taking it. Filing the police report felt strangely calm. There was no dramatic background music. No shaking hands. No second thoughts. Just paperwork. Cold, official paperwork. I sat across from the detective and explained everything. The loan, the forged signatures, the fake employment documents, the closing footage. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look shocked. He just took notes. When I finished, he asked one question. Are you prepared for this to become a criminal case?
Prepared.
I thought about Sunday family dinners. About birthdays. About childhood photos framed in my parent hallway. Then I thought about $860,000 in debt under my name. Yes, I said. The report was filed that afternoon. Identity theft.
Forgery.
Financial fraud. Once the case number was issued, everything moved faster. The bank froze the loan pending investigation. Collection notices paused. The missed payment stopped progressing toward default, temporarily. But the real shift happened that evening. My phone exploded. First, my mother. "How could you?" she screamed the second I answered. The police came to the house. I stayed quiet. "You embarrassed us," she continued. "Neighbors saw." Embarrassed.
Still not sorry.
"They committed fraud," I said calmly.
It was family, she cried.
"You don't send family to jail." "No," I replied softly. "Family doesn't steal from each other."
She hung up on me.
2 minutes later, my father called. His tone was different this time. No threats. No authority. Just tension. "You need to withdraw that report," he said. "I can't." "You can. It's already under investigation." Silence. Then he lowered his voice. "If this goes through, Emily will have a record. Her life will be ruined." I closed my eyes briefly. "My life was collateral to you." "That's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." Then came the final call. Emily. For once, she wasn't angry. She was scared. "Please," she said quietly. "I didn't think it would go this far. You forged my name. I thought you'd just deal with it." There it was. The truth. She thought I'd absorb it like always. "I can't fix this for you," I said. "You're my sister. And you made me your bank." She started crying then. Not dramatic. Not manipulative. Real tears. But even that didn't move me. Because I had cried too, alone in my apartment, staring at a collapsing credit score. And no one rushed to save me. By the end of the week, detectives requested full financial records. The bank scheduled interviews. The closing agent was contacted. The woman who pretended to be me? Identified. Paid in cash. Suddenly, this wasn't a family misunderstanding. It was conspiracy. And, for the first time, since this started, they realized I wasn't bluffing. The house that was supposed to be Emily's dream? It was now evidence. And the foundation it stood on was cracking fast. By the next month, the tension in my family reached a boiling point. The bank had completed its preliminary investigation. The loan was frozen. No payments could be processed under my name. The foreclosure notices, which had once been a distant fear, now loomed over Emily's dream home. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mom first.
Panicked.
"Shabir, please. You're destroying everything. What will people think?" Dad next. Threatening this time, his voice tight with anger and fear. "You're tearing this family apart. Withdraw the report." And then Emily. Her voice wasn't dramatic this time. It was trembling. I can't believe this is happening." "It wasn't just happening, Emily. It was coming. The consequences of your choices, your lies, your forgery, finally catching up." I watched in silent satisfaction as their carefully constructed world began crumbling. The house, the symbol of my parents' favoritism, Emily's recklessness, and their shared audacity, was now a liability. The late fees, frozen payments, and legal holds piled up. Credit reports were flagged. Contractors and utility companies began calling Emily about unpaid bills tied to the property. The perfect home turned into a legal nightmare. At first, they tried to manipulate me again. "Please, it's just a house," my mother sobbed over the phone. "It's just a temporary loan," Emily shouted during one desperate call. But I didn't answer. I let the phone ring. I let the emails pile up. I let them witness their world unravel without interference. The most satisfying moment came 2 weeks later when my lawyer emailed me the foreclosure notification. The bank had started formal proceedings to reclaim the property. Emily's name appeared nowhere. The court recognized the mortgage as fraudulent under my name. I sat back in my apartment, staring at the screen. Relief. Freedom. And, yes, a little vindication. My parents' messages went unanswered. They stopped calling as frequently. Emily tried once to text me about moving her belongings out of the house, but I ignored it. The once perfect facade of family harmony, the one built on my credit, my name, my responsibility, was now cracked, shattered, irreparable. The truth was brutal. They had treated me as a tool, a safeguard for their child's recklessness. and they thought I'd silently accept it. But I didn't. They had built a house on a foundation of lies. And now that foundation was collapsing, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I didn't rescue them. I didn't pay their debts. I didn't patch their mistakes. I let the consequences fall where they belonged. And in doing so, I finally realized something profound. Loyalty without respect is not virtue. It's slavery. For the first time, I stopped being the family's scapegoat. For the first time, I put myself first, and it felt better than anything I had ever imagined. The day I got the official notice from the bank, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The investigation was complete. My identity was cleared. The mortgage under my name was declared fraudulent. My credit score began to recover, slowly but steadily. The nightmare of $860,000 in debt, the stress, the fear, the late fees was gone. I read the documents carefully. The charges for identity theft and forgery had been filed against my sister and the accomplices who had pretended to be me. My parents' complicity was noted in the reports, though I knew consequences for them would be subtle, social embarrassment, strained family relationships, but enough to leave scars. I finally understood. Justice doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like protection. I didn't reach out to my family. They hadn't considered my feelings until their world started crumbling. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want the empty words that had always masked manipulation. Emily sent me one final text. I never meant for it to go this far. I'm sorry. I read it, then deleted it. Apologies weren't worth my attention. They had stolen my trust. They had gambled with my life. Words couldn't fix that. For the first time in my life, I felt peace. Not just relief.
Peace.
I went to my apartment, the one I had rented and loved, and looked around. My space. My life. My finances. My choices. No one else's chaos could touch it anymore. I started thinking about what I would do next. Freedom gave clarity. I could buy my own home one day. I could invest without fear of sabotage. I could live without walking on eggshells around those who were supposed to protect me. And the truth was, I didn't miss the family dinners. I didn't miss the favoritism or the manipulation. I missed nothing. Loyalty without respect is slavery. I had been a slave to their choices, their mistakes, and their sense of entitlement for too long. Now I was free. The house, the SUV, the bank calls, the emotional manipulation, all gone. All consequences now belonged to the people who had caused them. I smiled quietly to myself. I had survived. I had fought. And I had reclaimed my life. For the first time, I slept at night without dread. For the first time, I woke up knowing I was safe. The lesson I took away from all of this was simple yet profound. Family can betray, but truth protects. Love can blind, but courage frees. And no one has the right to mortgage your life without your permission. I wasn't just the responsible one anymore. I was the survivor. And in that survival, I found something more powerful than revenge, more satisfying than justice, and more priceless than any house: my freedom.